Market Outlook, Week 35. The past trading week, Week 34, brought both clarity and uncertainty to the markets. Clarity, because Fed Chair Jerome Powell reiterated at the Jackson Hole Symposium that monetary policy decisions remain data-dependent. Uncertainty, because investors read a clear signal for the autumn in his remarks. The CME FedWatch Tool now sees a high probability of a 25 basis point rate cut in September. At Quantum, we already pointed out in June that the Federal Reserve was likely to move in this time frame. Back then, it was still a minority view. Today, it is increasingly shared across the market. This expectation is supported by the latest US data. Durable goods orders declined, and consumer confidence weakened as well. While the US economy continues to show momentum, the signs of cooling are hard to ignore. Exactly this room to maneuver could allow the Fed to implement its first cautious easing in September, a scenario that markets are already beginning to price in. The crypto markets mirrored this mix of hope and caution. Bitcoin dominance peaked at 60.2%, but fell back to 58.7% by the weekend. Altcoins briefly gained market share, though without establishing a structural trend. Even more striking was the decline in the Fear and Greed Index, from 64 points in the previous week, clearly in greed territory, down to 53 points, returning to neutral. Euphoria gave way to restraint, as investors acted more cautiously and awaited macro impulses. Looking ahead, Week 35 is set to be shaped almost entirely by major data points. On Tuesday, US durable goods orders and the Conference Board consumer confidence reading are due, providing early clues on whether the economic cooling is accelerating or whether the US economy can maintain its momentum. On Thursday, the second estimate of US GDP for the second quarter will be released. At the same time, the Bitcoin Asia 2025 conference in Hong Kong will take place, not only setting industry themes but also expected to deliver regulatory statements from Asia. Finally, Friday marks the highlight of the week with the release of US PCE inflation data, including the core figure. These numbers are crucial for the Fed and will determine whether expectations of a September rate cut hold. At the same time, Germany will publish its preliminary consumer prices for August, delivering impulses for the euro area as well. For crypto, these macroeconomic signals are closely linked to internal dynamics. While Bitcoin ETFs have recently seen outflows, Ethereum products attracted inflows, hinting at a beginning rotation within the large protocols. Meanwhile, token unlock volume in August is significantly lower than in July, down by about 52%. This reduces structural selling pressure, although individual projects can still create short-term headwinds. The central scenario for Week 35 therefore remains data-dependent. If PCE numbers come in line with expectations, stability is the most likely outcome. A softer PCE combined with solid GDP data would ease yield pressure, weaken the dollar, and strengthen risk appetite, an environment that could support breakouts in leading assets. Conversely, an upside inflation surprise or unexpectedly strong GDP growth would undermine rate cut expectations. Higher yields and a stronger dollar would weigh on risk assets and create downward pressure in crypto. Against this backdrop, we at Quantum Data Analytics have deliberately positioned our signal strategy defensively. Our signal robot currently operates at a base allocation of around 50%. This provides stability while preserving the flexibility to add positions when clear signals arise. It is a disciplined, structured approach, adapted to market conditions. It does not represent a promise of returns, but rather a framework designed to remain resilient and responsive. Thus, Week 35 begins with a tension between hopes of monetary easing and the risk of renewed volatility. The markets are watching the data, and we keep our systems ready, flexible, vigilant, and prepared for the next move. Quantum data analytics. Analytical, strategic,